Welcome back, everybody. A live look inside a Charleston, South Carolina courtroom. A trial begins for the woman accused of killing a bride on her wedding night. A tragic story. Prosecutors say Lee Komoroski crashed her car while driving under the influence. She reportedly hit a golf cart carrying 34-year-old Samantha Miller while leaving her reception. The crash also seriously injured her new husband. CBS News correspondent Skyler Henry live outside the courthouse. Skyler, you and your team are watching this one closely. This is the day that really we start to see some strategy here. But if I'm understanding it correctly, my friend, and help me here, she has not entered a plea. Once she does so, that could either trigger jury selection or what?
I got it now, thank you.
Or we could see what would ultimately happen following a judge's decision. Reed, good to see you as always. If she were to plead guilty, then we would hear impact statements from both sides, and then we'll see ultimately what would happen moving forward as it relates to a judge's decision, as it relates to sentencing. But if she were to say she was not guilty, in this instance, then of course the jury selection would proceed, and then we'll see what happens following that. But as you pointed out, proceedings just getting underway inside of the courtroom. In fact, Komoroski was actually approached the bench, and her legal team notified her whether she was fully aware of the charges against her, several of them very serious charges, including reckless homicide following that April 2023 crash that killed Samantha Miller and seriously injured Aric Hutchinson, along with two of their relatives. And so we'll see what happens. We should figure out pretty quickly what the judge decides or what will happen moving forward. So we'll see maybe in the next 20 to 30 minutes or so. This was supposed to begin about an hour ago, but as these things usually go, you know, they take some time. So we'll see what happens moving forward.
And we just want to remind our viewers, when we see it, you see it. So Skyler will be able to jump on if there is that news-making item that happens in the courtroom. But I do want to ask you, while we still have you, Skyler, according to a wrongful death lawsuit filed by the bride's husband, some businesses are going to have to pay up big time. How does that work?
Yeah, so several of the businesses allegedly that Komoroski had either visited or had been using during the time of the crash have now been ordered to pay over more than $800,000. That's a series of bars and restaurants who say that she was significantly overserved. That is the rental car facility that she was using, in this case Enterprise Rental Car, that she was using to drive the Toyota sedan. And I believe we're getting some more updates as it relates from inside of the courtroom. She just pleaded guilty. So a significant development there, Reed, just in the last 30 seconds or so, in that Lee Komoroski just pleaded guilty there. So in this case, we'll see, as I was pointing out before, what will happen in terms of what the judge decides to do. We know that we will still hear those impact statements from both sides. The defense is also expected to speak following today's court proceedings as well, so we'll see what they have to say. Obviously a tragic story all around, taking into consideration this was Samantha and Aric's wedding night. They were supposed to be celebrating a night that they had been planning for so long. And of course, this night led to so much tragedy, not too far from where we are here in Charleston, South Carolina. And so new developments, Lee Komoroski pleading guilty here. We'll see what the judge has to say and how we decide to move forward. But to your point, several of those businesses ordered to pay more than $800,000 in significant damages there. And that was according to an exchange for the release of liability or any claims of wrongful death or personal injury in that incident. They're also required to pay some 33.33% of attorney fees as well. And there are still some outstanding things there that could essentially lead to more money going to the estate, if you will, of Samantha Miller, in this case, her new husband, Aric Hutchinson. So we'll see what happens there as well.
And Skyler, we're looking at live pictures inside the courtroom right now, standing before the judge after that breaking news item that we brought you here on CBS News 24/7, pleading guilty. Correct me if I'm wrong as to procedure here. Victim impact statements, and then what? The judge can go directly to sentencing?
Yes. So that's what we could see moving forward. It's still unclear whether that could be something that happens in the next couple of minutes, hours, or if the judge decides to take their time and decide something later on down the line. Obviously, all of this happening very quickly, as you pointed out,
Right.
in real time. So we'll see once we hear from those statements what the judge decides to do. This is something that could be decided within the next couple of hours. Remember, Komoroski is facing anywhere between 3 and more than 80 years in prison. So we'll see how the judge decides to move forward. This was a story, an incident that shocked the nation, really, in terms of the tragedy and the scale of it all, and just the fact, that this is a story that we hear all the time, and why so many people say simply not to drink and drive. And so we will see how the judge decides to move forward, and whether we will get some sort of sentencing in the next few minutes.
Well, and we've also been showing that video of her taking a kiss from her new husband on her wedding day, and it just reminds us, on days like this, in courtrooms across the United States, when somebody takes accountability, pleads guilty, the story then becomes about the victim. And we are now looking at the pictures of this beautiful bride and her husband on a day that started beautifully, and because of the person on your screen now who has just pled guilty, turned to absolute tragedy. Skyler, thank you so much for being there on the air for us when breaking news happened there in that case.